A man that I believe was an officer came into the house. He told Mother to sit, and so she sat there, and he started talking to me, and he said, I understand that you think you saw something. And I said, well, I saw a piece of material. And he said, no, you didn't. And I don't understand his terminology. So I said, yes, I did. And the more I said, yes, I did, the more emphatic he got that, no, I didn't. And he said, don't you understand that you cannot ever say that you saw anything? Don't you know what you've seen here? That this is, you can never talk about this the rest of your life. And he said, there are things we can do. We can take you out here in the desert and no one will ever find your bodies. He finally said, he asked Mother, he said, can she keep a secret? And Mother said, yes. If we tell her, she will. And he said, well, if she doesn't, you'll all be dead. I try so hard not to do this. I don't want to live this again.
They had a lieutenant colonel from the Air Force, and he did not identify himself. He might have, I just don't remember. And he told me, if we just took you out in the jungle, they'd never find you out there. And I'm like, well, and I didn't want to say, I didn't want to test him to see if he'd really do that. So I said, yeah. And he's like, you got to sign these papers, and you never saw this, and I don't exist, and this situation never happened. And if you tell anybody, you'll just come up missing. And he was a real abrasive, just a cynical asshole, I guess is the best way to put it. You couldn't call it a cell. It was more of like an interrogation room, and I sat in there for, I don't know, 15 hours. Those guys with a light. I mean, they put this light in my face, and they were yelling at me, and I couldn't really readily identify any of these guys, but I knew one of them was at the crash site, because they were one of the guys that I recognized, because he was in black fatigues, and he was like, "What'd you see?" And he's like, "Yeah," he's like growling. He goes, "Are you a patriot? You like the Constitution?" I'm like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Well, we do what, we're on our own program, we don't obey, we just do what we want." And he's like, "Yeah." And they're like, and they're growling and they're relishing, and they're yelling at me, and they're hollering and cursing, and you didn't see anything, and we'll do you and your whole goddamn family. And they're it was basically that for about 8 or 9 hours. I mean, they took breaks. They were like, "Look, man, we're gonna take you off in a helicopter and just kick your ass out in the jungle, and we're gonna end you and all this." And they didn't physically put their hands on me, but I was sitting in a chair and I was handcuffed to the chair and I couldn't move. So basically, it was just this like harassment. I didn't eat anything for like a whole day. No water, no nothing. I just sat there.
They told me that I was wrong, that I hadn't seen anything. Clearly you were drunk on duty, and that will have to be reported to the Education Department, and of course you'll lose your job.
An official report into Westall just disappeared.
And that is what I find most interesting of all, that I was definitely being told to be quiet.
Are you glad to have been able to speak out about this after so long? Do you feel relief?
No, not really. I think the experience actually contributed to my demeanour as an adult, the way that I handle situations and the way that I respond in a critical situation in particular. So the bullying that I underwent with those men that came to the school, which was definitely bullying now, has made me more resolved in the way I've lived my life.
Is that the same for all of you?
Yes and no. I think I've gone a little bit the opposite, where I've become more outspoken, and I don't take people's criticism and trying to tell me that I was crazy, because I know what I saw. So nothing will change my resolve. It's in my brain forever.